Welcome to the Flagrant Take on Real Estate Podcast. We are out and about in the elements today, but a beautiful day. Too beautiful to be inside, and I'm joined by a home inspector professional, but more importantly, a friend of mine, Mr. Jerry Brown of Nest Check Home Inspections.
Thank you.
And Jerry, give a little bit of background. I had my second transaction a year ago, and it was set to take place in Nash County, North Carolina, which is further east of Wake County, where I'm primarily based out of. And when it came to trying to find inspectors for my clients and finding somebody who could make the time and take the drive out there, it was really difficult. Now, granted, you have local home inspectors who I'm sure are amazing at their job, but I was able to come into Jerry's contact information, and Jerry made the drive out from Siler City?
Yep, Siler City. From
Siler City all the way out to Nash County, which is roughly about an hour and a half trip out, but he was awesome. He gave great feedback to my clients, even made them aware of a water heater issue that they needed to make sure was rectified before closing day, and it was in fact taken care of. So this man is thorough, he is extremely knowledgeable, and most importantly, I am grateful for your time, man. Not for myself, but for those who are also watching. So thank you for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it, my friend. So tell us about it. Nest Check Home Inspections. What led to you starting this company?
So when we got started about a year before I retired from the Air Force.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to figure out what we're going to do. The current career path that I was on, I wasn't going to be able to sustain it just due to wear and tear on the body. So with our area, there was what I felt a lack of empathy and compassion for people that were trying to do better and trying to better themselves, better their lives. So we had looked at how we could further help our community and stay involved. I didn't want to be inside. I wanted to be active and do different stuff, and something that was challenging. I've always been mechanically inclined and build stuff and things like that. So started looking into the home inspection process. Looked at the schooling and what it entailed, and sat down with my wife, who was a huge driver of our success. Really, she's been integral in everything that we've done. Once we decided that was the route we wanted to take, we wanted to work for ourselves. We just wanted to be self-sustaining, So started to go down that path and really enjoyed it. The challenge of learning stuff. I mean, there's a lot that goes into the building process that a lot of people aren't aware of. So it was a good challenge, and we started down that road and just kept going. I guess our biggest driving factor was to help people, to be someone that people could trust.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's what really drove us.
That's awesome, man. So as we've been carrying on this series of the due diligence process, which was the previous episode, we got on the topic of home inspections, and that's something that I always emphasize to buyer clients of mine in regards to its significance and its importance, and rarely is there ever any pushback. I mean, granted, buyers don't have to get a home inspection. Yep. It's strongly suggested, especially because North Carolina is a buyer beware state. Yep. So if you can, just, a home inspection, what is that process?
So, especially now, that a lot of home buyers are waiving the inspections. The home inspection process, at the bare bones, according to the standards of practice set forth by North Carolina, is pretty basic. Most home inspectors really go above and beyond the standards of practice, and it basically covers the house as a whole. It's a general inspection. It's nothing. It's not real specific. But it covers, the structure, foundation, the roof, some of the affixed appliances, the plumbing system, the HVAC system. There's a lot of components that it covers, and they're general. Nothing is in depth. It's non-invasive. It's just everything that's on the surface. So that's kind of how I explain it to clients, is that everything that you're seeing in the report is just surface stuff. As you start to peel back those layers, to get more invasive, you may find more deficiencies. So that's how I like to explain it to people whenever we're talking over the report, doing a review. If the outlet's not responding, it could be as simple as a bad outlet. It could be something that simple, or it could be something more extensive. With the wiring that's been done in the house, it really varies. So that's the best way that I like to explain that.
Okay, so is the purpose of a home inspector to diagnose deficiencies, or more or less point out, hey, there's an issue here with the HVAC, it's not really blowing cold air?
Yeah, so, and we get that question a lot. I know a lot of inspectors do. I follow a lot of forums and stuff, just to gain knowledge. It's to point out a deficiency. Hey, something is wrong here. This system or this part of the home is not operating the way that it's designed to or supposed to. There's something going on there. We'll get a lot of times, well, why is it not working the way that it's supposed to? And mainly, HVAC stuff. The house isn't cooling off. Why isn't it cooling? And that's where, as an inspector, we don't diagnose the problem. Especially with HVAC. I mean, the HVAC technicians have a lot of extensive training, in diagnosing systems and stuff like that. And there's a lot of integral parts to it. So we don't diagnose problems. There are some issues where they're cut and dry, and you can give clients an
Loose
answer.
doorknob.
Yeah, loose doorknob. Yeah. It needs to be tightened up. It's loose. More likely than not, it's loose because of repeated use and things like that. But yeah, we're not there to diagnose the problem and give a specific, hey, this is why this is the way that it is. We're just there to say, hey, this is not working the way that it's supposed to or it's intended to.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well, speaking of questions, because we put up a poll prior to our recording of this, and I just kind of made it a free-for-all for the public to basically ask a pro. Good. This is what we're here. When it comes to real estate, the questions come to me, but when it comes to home inspections, the reason why you're the trusted man here is for that. So if you don't mind, we were going to dive into some of those questions we received, if you're cool with that, man. Good. All right, awesome, man. So one of the questions that we received on social media, regarding somebody's home buying experience, they had it itemized on their home inspection report that there were cracks in the driveway.
Okay.
All right. Why would that be an issue that needed to be, marked on a home inspection for a potential home buyer?
Okay. So that's one that comes up a lot. Okay. And the saying is, two things are guaranteed with concrete.
Okay.
One, it's going to get hard, and two, it's going to crack.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of factors that go into, the pour, the preforms and stuff like that go into pouring the concrete. There's a lot of different variances in there that can lead to cracking. Typically they put in expansion joints, things like that, so the concrete can move, so the form can move. Where it really becomes a problem, foundation, obvious, you don't want bulges and things like that. But typically what I see in driveways are trees. You'll have trees by the driveway, and while they look pretty and they're nice and everything, those root systems go out and they start to cause problems in the driveway. It cracks and stuff like that. Newer homes, you don't see them right away because they've cut stuff and everything's nice and neat. But in older homes, if you look at older homes, whether it's an asphalt driveway or a concrete driveway, typically you're going to see those bulges where the root system is growing underneath the concrete. It's causing cracks. So driveways really not a huge deal, other than they're an eyesore, or you're driving over them They can be trip hazards depending on how big the cracks are. And then once they start to crack, typically they're just going to further deteriorate at that point. Okay. So, that's kind of the thing with cracks. The best thing to do is, one, the best thing obviously is to find out why the crack's there, and then two is to seal it up so water can't continue to get into it and further erode underneath of it and just compound the problem.
All right. Now, in regards to, the roof system, right? Like you had mentioned HVAC. There are HVAC specialists. There's also those who specialize specifically in roofing. So for yourself, when you're going through a home inspection, and you're, checking out the roof and inspecting it, to what extent do you inspect it, and at what point in time do you then recommend a roof specialist come out for the buyer to get further indication of what the issue with the roof could be?
So with the roof system, there's a lot of variables that go into that as well. We're not required to get on the roof. As first and foremost, our safety comes first, and we make that determination whether or not we mount the roof. For me, I'm a little more brazen, I guess. If I can get on the roof, I'll get on the roof. And you're taking in a lot of factors. How old is the roof? What does it look like? What does the granule loss look like? Typically, once you get up to it, you can tell that if it's going to be safe to get on there. Just sometimes what you'll run into is you step onto the roof and the granules are, it's later in its life, and those granules will start to flake off and really make you slide.
So sorry to interrupt, are those more the superficial materials that we can even see from the street?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So, all those things you take into account. If I can't get a good look at the roof, and every inspector is different. Some have drones, which the rule is you got to have your Part 107 FAA license to be able to fly the drone for monetary gain. There are poles out there, telescoping poles that guys will use. You can look out windows, binoculars. There are a lot of different tools that we have at our disposal to inspect the roof. So what we look for is obviously granule loss on the roof system. It's hard to age it because different environmental factors affect it at different rates, things like that. So you're looking for that. You're looking for exposed nail heads. If you look up along the shingles, you're looking for like bird's mouth. So you see if a shingle has raised up, which it would typically indicate that there's a nail sticking up there,
creating some gapping potentially.
Yep. So you want those shingles to lay flat and be sealed down so that the wind can't get underneath and flip them up, and just kind of snowball from there, tear the shingles off, and things like that.
Potential moisture penetration spot.
Yeah. When you get a driving rain, a wind-blown rain, it's going to push that moisture and that water up underneath that shingle, and further deteriorate from that point.
Understood. So, for a lot of times when I'm speaking with clients, foundation, roof, HVAC, those are the biggies. Yeah. When we're going to a seller saying, hey, these are some defects that we found, you're more inclined to get some response from the seller to say, okay, let's attach a credit to it. In lieu of repair, we can figure out what we can do to get this rectified. What are some things that, buyers should consider when they're looking at that inspection report? And I say that because you're designed to go through the nooks and crannies of the home. Yeah. And working with you, your inspection reports are very detailed, they're thorough, they include video, picture, which is great. It makes it digestible and easy to understand for those who aren't trained specialists or professionals. So, when you're breaking it down for clients who are asking, is this a big deal or not? How do you help them understand, okay, this is a big deal that needs to be addressed. This is something you could potentially go to the seller about, but if they don't want to rectify it, this is something you can take care of down the road. And then this one as a simple DIY issue. How do you kind of go through that and make them aware?
So I would answer that kind of a multifaceted type answer. One is, we always like having the client there to talk through the report. Me personally, I don't feel like I can give that client the amount of information that I want to give them in that short amount of time. Typically as home inspectors, we have, multiple appointments that day. And then once we're done with those appointments, we have reports to write. So what I like to do is do a Zoom meeting with the client. Set it up, offline, no time constraints. I set it up on their timeline. I make time. If it's, I've had people that are overseas. I deal a lot with military, so they're overseas, and I'm up at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning doing a Zoom meeting because that's when they're getting off of work. Because then we can sit down in a controlled environment and really go through the report. I can pull it up, screen share it, and we can go through and we can talk those things through. With the report itself, in today's age, and this is more of my take. There's not a lot of, you'll find people that don't want to take responsibility for what they're doing, right? So these inspectors have to, we have to plan for, the worst possible case of, someone, that doesn't take any responsibility. So a lot of times the reports, the wording may seem really scary, like, oh my goodness gracious, I've got, flexible pipe under my drain or in my drain, what do I need to do? Yeah. So that's where those Zoom meetings really come in handy, is we can sit down and be like, hey man, I pointed this out, that you have a flexible drain pipe as part of your drain underneath the sink. It can get clogged, things like that. It's a pretty simple fix. Any handy DIY handyman can fix that, right? So when you're looking through those reports, don't get so wrapped around the wording, because a lot of times, North Carolina, they want us to do the DDID reporting,
What, and if you could break that down.
So you're describing what you're looking at, the deficiency, and then the implications of, if you don't fix that, what can happen, and then give them a route to take to get it fixed. And which is a really great, simple format to follow. So good on them for coming up with that. It keeps everything on track.
Yeah.
So the reports, as a buyer, you've got to sit down and go through that and prioritize, and that's where, as an inspector, I always try to let my agents know, hey, don't feel like you have to answer these questions. Send them to me. I wrote the report, send them to me. Let me take that off your plate and help guide them a little bit. So as a buyer, you need to sit down and go through those and, prioritize what's important to you, because it varies.
What's going to be a deal breaker in your mind?
Yeah, a perfect point of that is the house that my wife and I bought a little over a year ago. It's an older house. I looked through it and was like, yeah, it's an older house. It's got older problems, but yeah, it's good. I can fix all of these things. Where someone else may be like, oh my goodness, man, I don't want anything to do with it.
Can I get my due diligence back?
Yeah.
No is the answer. No is the answer.
Yeah. So I would say, reach out to your inspector, and certainly if it's me, say, hey, I'd like to set up to go through page by page and talk about each individual, item in the report. That would be my biggest advice, and if you feel like you're an inconvenience or a burden on that person for asking that, then you may not have the right person. Gotcha. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Jerry, in conclusion, man, we appreciate your time. Thank you for being a part of the Flagrant Take on Real Estate podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Final question was this, though, and former firefighter, everybody loves to tell stories. What's one of the wildest things you've seen during an inspection? Be it, I don't know even, I mean, you're former military, so what's, weird or out of the normal for you, right? So what would you say has been something that kind of was a surprise, unbeknownst to you, while conducting an inspection?
Well, I mean, you could ask any home inspector, and they could sit and talk for hours of things that they see. I mean, you see a lot of stuff. I mean, you see a lot of things, things that make you scratch your head. I mean, you never want to judge anybody. You don't know what walk they're on. I mean, you see stuff and you're just like, wow. Probably we always get asked about crawl spaces.
Gotcha.
Right? So I'm okay with spiders, none of that stuff. I mean, I grew up in the country. I mean, you see raccoons or possums. Typically if you see them, when you go into a crawl space, you look for eyes. You don't see any, you kind of press on, no big deal. But my thing is snakes.
My thing too.
I am not a fan of snakes. We live on a farm, so snakes are there. And actually, just this morning, I was walking around the pasture and saw a giant snake skin down by the old barn. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But my thing is snakes. So going into a crawl space, I have the mindset of the immature mindset of, if I don't look at it, it's not there. If I don't acknowledge it, it's not there.
I can't see you, you can't see me.
Yeah, you're just, whatever. So
yeah.
I was out in, I forget where it was. It was out in the country. It was a manufactured home. The termite guy was there. Mm-hmm. I was going into the crawl space first. I had joked with him. It was like, hey, you go into crawl space and run all the snakes and everything out before I get in there. So I go into the crawl space, and typically, you like it to be so that you can move around. You're not covering the same ground twice. At least that's the way that I like it. That way I can do my thorough look through as I'm going around, and I'm not backtracking and things like that. So I go into the crawl space. It's not too bad. I can get down on my hands and knees, in the rafters or the floor joists are at my back. So it's not too bad. Nice sandy floor. As I start going up the one side, I see a snake skin, and it's probably about 3 foot long. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's just one, it's no big deal. I keep going, I see another one. I'm like, okay, I'm not digging this anymore.
Longer than 3 feet now?
Yeah, well, we're still about the 3 foot range.
Okay, all right.
And it is summertime, so they're out, they're active.
Yeah.
And then I get up to closer to the end, and there's another skin, and it's pretty big. It's pretty big. And then I realized that as the way the ductwork is ran, I can't continue around. I've got to go back and go up the other side. So I come back out, and as I make the turn and start to go up the other side, I find another snake skin. I'm like, man, I'm really not digging this. I'm starting to question everything. Like, why am I a home inspector? I'm in these nasty places. And it wasn't too long before that, I was in an attic and found, I think it was like 10 snake skins up in the attic of a house. So I'm on high alert. I'm emotional. I'm emotional over snakes right now.
I would be highly emotional as well. It's all right.
I'm
You're
having,
amongst friends.
Yeah. So as I'm continuing up through the crawl space, I'm about midways. I see what looks like a snake trail going through the sand, nice sandy bottom of this house. And all these things are just stacking up. I'm like, you know what? I don't feel good about it. I just don't feel good about it. It's like I'm turning around. I don't feel good about it. And we're talking like 40, 50 foot run that I've already went up one side. Now I've started up the other side. I'm about halfway. I'm just like, I just don't feel good about it. I'm turning around. So as I turn around,
oh no.
Yeah, there's where the pillar is. it just happened to catch my eye. There is a snake laying on the pillar, coiled up, laying on the pillar. I just make a run for it.
So somebody in the house just here just coming from the crawl space.
So this all ties into 20 years in the military,
Yeah.
and you're doing different exercises and things like that. And you're always like, why am I going to have to do this stupid low crawl? This is the dumbest thing. They're just doing this to make us suffer.
Yeah.
Brother, let me tell you something. I was never more happy to have perfected the low crawl. I came out of the crawl space faster than probably people can run.
Speed and agility on 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just wide open, straight out the crawl space.
So what do you say to the homeowner as you're leaving, or whoever was there?
So it was only me and the termite guy.
Okay.
It was us two.
Yeah.
So I shot out. He just so happened to be at the entrance to the crawl space, getting ready to come in.
Oh.
And I launched out. So termite guys, man, they're a different breed. Like they're pretty comfortable in crawl spaces. And he just kind of looked like, what'd you see in there?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a snake on the second pillar. There's a snake in there. He's like, okay, cool.
Hey,
No,
man.
not this kid.
Hey,
So
it's your nightmare, not mine, bro.
Yeah.
At that point in time. Well, man, Jerry, thank you for being on the episode. I feel like this won't be the only time you're here.
Hey, man,
so hopefully you're open to coming back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I
Awesome,
definitely
man.
appreciate it.
No, most definitely. So before we get out of there, man, where can the people find you? Where can they, come across your business and obviously give you a shout, as I'm sure they will.
So like I said, my wife, huge supporter. I mean, just the backbone, really. She has created our online presence. We're at www.nestcheckhomeinspection.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook. She runs all of that. The posts and things that you see are in my heart, but she brings them to life.
Yeah, man.
She runs all that stuff, and then my phone number is 910-973-5660. And then hers is 910-973-5674.
And we'll get all that put on here, so
Yeah.
you guys know that. We'll have him copied on everything, linked on everything. So, like I said, this is a not just talented at what he does, but also he does it with the right heart and the right mindset. And for peace of mind in regards to customer care, customer service, you want to make sure that the professional that you hire isn't just knowledgeable, but they also have an element of empathy and sympathy to the clients and consumers, and you're extremely responsive. So I'll say, as a professional to professional, man, it's always a pleasure working with you, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I
very
appreciate
much.
it, man. So we'll be back out there in the field together here soon.
Yep.
Thank you again for being on here, and we'll jump on here, I'm sure, in the very near future again. But guys, again, this has been an episode of The Flagrant Take on Real Estate. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And if you find the information helpful, please share it. And for you guys whose questions were selected, congratulations to you. I'll be in touch very soon. You guys take care of each other and yourself. Peace.